Welcome to Create Your Own Reality, a show about hope, inspiration, and encouragement. A program that will feature guests and topics that may inspire you to think and stretch your beliefs about what is real and how you can create miracles in your life. Your hosts, Badeish Lange and Pauline Norton.
Welcome. You're used to seeing the two of us, Badeish and myself, Pauline, up here interviewing a guest. Well, Badeish is not only a co-host, but she's got many other talents, and today you're going to find out about those talents. Badeish is also a psychic medium, and she is also a life coach and a hypnotherapist, among many other things, and that's actually how we met many years ago. I had a program in Portland, and Badeish was a guest, and actually, I got to be honest, I like interviewing Badeish. She's a great interview. Welcome to our show, Badeish.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So people have only known you as a co-host on the show. I mean, they probably know you're a psychic medium, and we want to know more about what you do and why it's important to know about that today, because I think everybody needs a little extra help.
Well, you know, my journey's been that it developed at 37. I had a lot of phenomenon as a child, and after 37, it was obvious that there was going to be more phenomenon, but I had spiritual experiences that put me on the path to work with teachers and to do a lot of study. And basically, I'm pretty well rounded in a lot of different subjects and a lot of different religions. And I believe that you find your way on the path from your heart and your soul. I mean, it sort of guides you in a calling as to what it is that you're interested in. There's certain subjects or certain situations that I've experienced in life, and I knew not to go in that direction. So you can say that my life has been called to do a lot of the things that I do.
Would it be too personal to ask you? You said when you were young you had a lot of phenomenon in your life. Can you tell us about some of that?
Well, when I was about 3 years old, I was in the hospital, and they were getting ready to put my little body into ice because I was running a very, very dangerous and high temperature from an infection that they didn't have a cure for in those days.
Do you know what it is now, what it would be?
It was an inner ear virus, but in those days, this is aging me.
Well, we won't give any, don't give out any years.
Virus X. Anyway, my parents were talking to the doctor was in the hallway talking to my parents, and I was in my hospital room, and an angel appeared and basically told me that I could leave or I could stay, but that I...
In what form?
It was a physical presence. It didn't have wings, but it definitely twinkled. And as a 3-year-old, you never forget what you think is an angel, or, you know, it looked a little like a fairy. But it came back when I was 37, and I had sort of
the same angel?
Yes. Yeah, if ever I didn't understand what that was about, I guarantee you when I was 37, I really got the full experience. It was like a rapture, which changed my life again. So, and I'm also from a family of intuitives. It goes back generations, and my mother was extraordinary. She could pretty much know what I was doing in my life wherever I was. She knew what I was doing.
Was it a telepathic type of connection?
And she could levitate. She was an artist. She had so many talents. And excuse me, I have 4 brothers and a sister that all are intuitives, and we all have chosen to do something different with our abilities, and I'm the only public personality.
Well, a couple of things I'm thinking. When children are like 3, it's natural for them to see things that people that are older don't see, because I think, and your situation is a little different because you were born into that. I mean, your family would have been saying, oh, you know, and really believing you, because it sounds like they would be very accepting, where a lot of children tell their parents that, and they think it's their imagination. So being 3 years old, you were open to that, number one. Then number...
Yeah, I was open, but also my temperature immediately, within the few minutes that the angel was there, my temperature completely went away out of my body, and when my parents and the doctor came back in the room, I was well.
So the angel said you could stay or you could go.
And I chose to stay.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm thinking as a physical presence at 3, who knows? But as a spirit, which is what you were, a wise spirit, you decided you would stay.
Yeah.
I wonder why it took so many years for that experience. I mean, what happened between 3 and 37? I mean, were you on a spiritual path after that, or?
Actually, not an obvious spiritual path, because I was raising a couple children. I'd had a difficult marriage. I was distracted from that, and yet every home I lived in from the time I was about 20 years old was, seemingly, I had ghosts, and so did my sister.
When people talk about ghosts, usually I think it's a person that is crossed over, that is confused, but sometimes it could be a mischievous energy. So what kind of...
I had a full range of a little bit of everything. Unfortunately, I only had a couple experiences in the 80s where I felt that my life was a little bit threatened, but I was trained etherically, and that means that I was protected, and at the same time I had spirits around me that were giving me tools and giving me information, and it's strange, I felt so safe in dealing with some of the things that I was dealing with. I didn't have a shamanistic experience until I actually went into one and then had tools to deal with the situation. At one time in Woodland Hills, California, I lived in new construction, and it was on property that had 1,000 years ago. There was a whole tribe of Indians that lived there, and the whole track was disturbed, and I had about 100 Indians moving in and out of the house, and one day the chief of that tribe showed up in full headdress, physically manifested in my French doors, and was there to protect me. And so I had communications with the chief to clear the house of them that were at rest.
You know, I believe all this because first off I'm open to it, and then I know you, and you don't tell stories. But I got to say, it reminds me of Poltergeist a little bit, you know, where they disturb...
It wasn't quite as dramatic
no,
as that.
No, that was real dramatic. But I mean, the idea of disturbing something, so...
Yeah, anytime you see something move and you know you aren't touching it, or things disappear and reappear, and, you know, that type of thing. And that was not a calling to sort of go out there and go ghost busting.
Right.
I see it on television. I admire the people that have the courage and the wherewithal to go and do that type of thing. But mine has been strictly to look at the deeper levels of someone's woundology, their patterns, working in the DNA, and looking at all the ways that I can lift their spirit and talk about their calling, or talk about their abilities, or whatever. All of the gifts are there to do a 360, to have them understand that they're here for a reason.
Right. Well, we want to talk about that because, like you said, that just came with the territory, but it's not something that you're interested in. It's interesting and it's fun, but I think when you have psychic abilities, isn't it nice to use them to help people?
Yes.
You know, so beyond having the talent that you were born with and developing it, how did you further your abilities? I mean, you can be born with something, but you have to channel them, and sometimes you'll study extra, or I've heard you have to work to develop them, don't you?
Absolutely, and everybody has them. And for me, it was that angel coming back when I was 37 and making it crystal clear that what I was experiencing was real, and yet I didn't have a support system around me of people really close to me at the time to discuss it with.
Your family
except
wasn't,
my mother. And there was a lot of changes in my life, because when it happened, my field was raised.
Can you explain that in layman's terms, kind of?
Well, you know, have you ever been into a house and you go, boy, the vibration in here is pretty low and I don't want to stay?
Yeah, well, I know what you mean, because I think I'm what I call it environmentally sensitive, and it has to do with the energy.
Well, we can also have people that we're sensitive to, and we can tell who's happy and who's not. Or
absolutely.
And for me, that became very acute. When I would leave the house, the energy was vibrating off my body about 50 feet, and anyone that came in contact with that field was affected. And for the most part, it kept a lot of negativity away from me, but it engaged and brought people to me. And it was extraordinary.
For help?
Events. For help. The events that happened, I could have wrote a book, and what happened to me in a week.
Tell us a few. We want to know.
Well, there was a flower shop, and one afternoon,